Hi, it's Josie Cotton. And you're listening to the New Wave Music Podcast.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to the New Wave Music Podcast. As always, this is Steve.
Hey, and I'm T-Bone.
Before we begin, though, I wanted to mention our sponsor, Offside Apparel. We needed custom t-shirts printed, and we found Offside Apparel, and I'm glad we did. They have great prices and service.
Yeah, you can design online or upload your own designs on their website at offsideapparel.com. It's the perfect solution for family reunions, schools, clubs, companies, you name it. If you need custom printed or embroidered apparel, check out Offside Apparel. Plus, they ship everywhere.
And if you use the promo code NEWWAVE, one word, NEWWAVE, you'll get 10% off your entire order until May 31st, 2024. Once again, that's offsideapparel.com.
And we'd like to thank our listeners in Lampeter, Wales. We really appreciate you listening to us over there.
Well, T-Bone, after the whirlwind of interviews we've had, it's kind of nice to get back to a traditional review episode.
Yeah, and we're going to be going way back in time for a couple of these. One of them was 2017, and one was actually 2006.
Kind of 2006. We'll talk about that one later.
As we get to it.
Our first artist we're going to be reviewing is Blondie. You're no doubt going to remember Blondie from their hits such as Call Me, Heart of Glass, and One Way or Another.
One way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you. One way or another, I'm gonna win you. I'm gonna get you. One way or another, I'm gonna see you. I wanna meet you.
Yeah, so this album is called Pollinator, and as you just mentioned, Steve, this was released in 2017. This is their 11th studio album. Before that, Ghosts of Download was released in 2014. And Steve, there are a lot of collaborators on this album, some of which we'll talk about here in just a moment. But actually only 4 songs were written by members of Blondie. So in Blondie, we of course have Debbie Harry on vocals, Chris Stein on guitars, although he doesn't play live anymore due to serious heart condition. Clem Burke on drums, and those 3 are original members. Then we have Lee Fox on bass, Matt Katz-Bowen on keyboards, and if you are a longtime listener, you'll probably remember that we interviewed him as a member of Princess Goes last year. And then we have also Tommy Kessler on guitars.
All right, T-Bone, well, I got to admit, I was not a fan of Blondie's last album and really their album prior to that one as well. But let's see if this one changed my mind.
Let's do.
Kicking off this album, the first track is Doom or Destiny.
It could be fate or fatal attraction. Could it be a fait accompli? Oh, is it doom or destiny? Oh, is it doom or destiny?
I like how this track kicks off with the drums, then diving right into the semi-punk beat that we know and love from Blondie. Well, T-Bone, I didn't know this while listening to the album, but looking into some notes, I found out that Joan Jett lends her vocals to this album.
Well, not only vocals, but she plays guitar on it.
I didn't know. Learn something new every day.
Yes.
As I said before, I'm not much of a fan of Blondie's last 2 albums, but this song with its driving beat, the guitars, and Debbie's vocals delivering some infectious lyrics have me really looking forward to what we get to hear from the rest of the album.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this is my first of a few favorite songs on the album. And those drums that you mentioned are they are fantastic. A great way to start this album. Clem Burke really hits hard with the kind of power needed to begin things just the right way as this album needed. And despite my feelings that Debbie Harry didn't sound very good in the past couple of times that I've seen the band live, here she does come across very strong. And while the keyboards are more prevalent for the first part of the track, Chris does get in a nice guitar solo late in the song.
All right, T-Bone, let's see how our thoughts are on track number 2, Long Time.
Does it take you a long time? Does it make you upset? Does it make you think everybody wants to be your friend? I can give you a heartbeat. I can give you a friend.
Here we get one of the best songs on the album, I feel. Debbie's vocals sound amazing and deliver an outstanding musical performance. This one, I feel the musicians get to shine a bit as well. The lyrics I found to be outstanding, and again, Debbie's delivery of them was on point. This is not only one of my favorite songs on the album, but a song that holds up with the best of Blondie's songs.
Yeah, I was completely surprised after such a good first song. Here we go into the second track, and it's good, if not better. Yeah, the musicianship is outstanding here, and Debbie has never sounded better than the vocals she presents on this one. So let's go to the third track, Already Naked. So even though the band does slow things down after that blistering first two songs, this track is equally enjoyable. Both the steady percussion along with the guitar work create a nice sound that is thoroughly engaging, but it's the chorus Harry sings that really makes this track work so well. She really shows energy with it.
I like how a few songs in and we get some different vocal performances from Debbie. This one I like how her vocals didn't feel overproduced, and that works for the song's benefit. The percussions do a great job guiding you through the song and make for a nice highlight on this track. So far, T-Bone, 3 tracks in, and I'm really enjoying what we're hearing.
Yes. So that'll take us up to the fourth track, Fun. Now, Steve, this is another one of my favorite songs on this album. This one was actually co-written by David Siddick of the band TV on the Radio. And the first thing I got to say to you, Steve, is cowbells. Sadly, they aren't through the entire song, but they make this lively track start just the right way. There's a little bit more of a funk guitar used on this track, and it's very appealing. There's such a fun spirit to this song that you would not expect. Probably the thing I love most about this song, though, is how that funky guitar makes a transition to a sort of spaghetti western twang as the song progresses.
Well, T-Bone, I really like how the tone changes to more of a 70s vibe. That guitar and bass line that come in before the chorus really drives the tempo. And once the chorus kicks in, this song goes into full gear and makes for a great listen. This one is just what the title says, fun.
Absolutely.
Moving to track number 5, My Monster. This one we get a bit more synths. I enjoyed the lyrics and musicianship from the band a bit more than I did with the vocals. You get some nice synth and the guitar solo in this one. This track I found to be okay. It wasn't bad. It's just, to me, wasn't on the same level as the first songs that came before it.
You know, Steve, you might find this interesting, but I read that this is a cover of a Johnny Marr song, but I have yet to find any of his albums that include this song. But regardless, it does look like he played some guitar on this track.
Oh.
The band keeps the pace going with this one. Matt gets in some serious keyboard licks, especially late in the song, and plays right into some outstanding guitar. So that'll take us up to the 6th track, Best Day Ever.
Last day, make it the best day ever. I hope that you give my love, take it all with this great love. Just leave me your heart as you walk out the door. I'll keep it all wrapped up. Then don't turn around if you love me. You let me be, baby.
Now, this one was actually co-written by Sia and Nick Valenci, the guitarist of The Strokes. They seemed like maybe a kind of an odd combination for a Blondie album, but the songwriting works really well. It's a rather simple song, but the musicianship throughout is so good. Once again, the drumming and the guitar are the highlights. Bert continues to amaze by changing the drum pace at different times, which creates a great effect. And Debbie Harry really gets to work on the vocals, sounding really as good as she ever has.
I liked how this one started out with some light guitars and keyboards, but I gotta admit, when the vocals came in, it kind of really pulled me out of this song. This one is definitely a track I would skip on future listens. It's a track that kind of feels out of place and maybe a little bit underdeveloped.
All right, that'll take us up to track number 7. Let's see how we feel about this one, called Gravity.
Please just tell me what makes the world go round. What makes the world go round. What makes the world go round. Is it love? Oh, is it love? Uh-oh. Is it love? Oh, is it gravity?
Now, Steve, this is a cover of a Charlie XCX song. I hope I pronounced that right.
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know Charlie XCX at all, but this is a song that easily fits into the Blondie style. It's fast-paced, and I really like the synths that played along with the percussion. Harry's vocals are very playful at times, which makes for a fun listen. At times, she has a little difficulty hitting the high notes, but for the most part, her vocal contribution I felt was on target.
Well, T-Bone, I do agree with you. This one does have some nice synths and the great percussions to kick off the track. But to me, the vocal mix at the start really pulled me out. It had kind of more of a distorted or maybe an auto-tune effect that just didn't sound right. In fact, I was kind of getting a little bit of some missing persons flashbacks from our review a few weeks ago.
No.
But after, and I will have to say, after a solid start of the album, we're kind of now what I feel hitting the slump, which is kind of a bunch of less than average songs maybe in the middle of the album, which is kind of disappointing at this point.
Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I think we're moving right along pretty well, but let's go into the next one.
Let's move on to track number 8, When I Gave Up on You.
When I gave up on you, I gave up slowly, waiting for reasons to keep us going. But there were none, not even one, so it was clear to me that we should be done. Even though it was breaking my heart, we were perfect at the start.
I like the musicianship and the guitar melody, but again, the auto-tuning effect is a bit distracting from getting me really going into the song. It does improve slightly as the song goes on, or maybe I just got used to it. It again is an average song and one that I could skip on future listens.
Wow, I think we listened to 2 different albums, Steve. I don't recall hearing anything that sounded like auto-tune to me, but all right, in a total change of style, Blondie goes with a little bit more of a country song on this track. The bass work is exceptional and works really well with a slightly more twangy guitar. This is probably one of the best tracks to show Debbie Harry still has a strong recording voice. Like I mentioned earlier, I haven't been all that impressed with her live, but she does make a case for herself. But what really stood out for me, though, is the swirling synth work that moves in and out of the song. It really makes a presence as the song is coming to a close. So that'll take us to the 9th track, Love Level.
All I wanna do is level it off with you. And I
Steve. Again, this is another one of my favorite tracks on this song. Now, when I first heard this song, I assumed that the duet was a rapper, since that's a fairly common practice. I was utterly surprised to find that the other singer is actually John Roberts, the voice of Linda on Bob's Burgers.
I'm Linda. I love showers and mornings and bologna and turtles.
His vocals are a great inclusion that one would not expect. This track has just about everything going for it. An unusual drum beat, great synth work, it also kind of gives a sort of a horn sound with those synths, and guitars that fit in perfectly. But beyond those duet vocals I just mentioned, the lyrics, with a little bit of not so subtle innuendo, are very clever and a lot of fun to listen to.
T-Bone, you're right. The driving percussions and those synth horns were a fantastic way to kick off this song. Here, to me, is where the album gets back on track with a solid song. This is one that I really liked all the music cues along with the various vocals from Debbie and John. And I also enjoyed how John got to take over vocal duties maybe towards the end of the song.
All right, that'll take us up to the 10th track, Too Much.
I love you too damn much. Got to go 'cause now I'm driven. Stop the lies that I've been living. Got to leave what I've been given. You're out of luck without your love. Got to go 'cause now I'm driven. Stop the lies that I've been living. Got to leave what I've been given. You're out of luck without your love. I'm not free.
The drum beat that opens this track pulls you right in, then throw in some wonderful synths and guitar, and you have a pop song that can stand up to just about any. And Harry does a really amazing job, especially as she gets into the brisk chorus. Chris Stein puts in a decent, though short guitar solo, which fits in perfectly with the rest of the instruments. And this one is one of those songs, Steve, that I felt went by way too quickly. I felt it could have been quite a bit longer.
I agree with you, T-Bone. This one, though, solid musicianship kicks off this track. Deborah's vocals sound good and not overproduced. The highlight for me, though, was that frenzy chorus when it kicks in with the changes in the tempo, and then it kind of changes the tempo again to go back into the verses. I really like that effect.
Yeah.
I felt it was a nice balance and made for a really enjoyable and memorable listen to for this song. And then ending the album is track number 11, Fragments.
Everything comes in pieces. Do you love me yet? Fucking prove it. Try to ask yourself.
Here we get an epic ballad to close out the album. This song took me a few times to listen to and process and appreciate it. I enjoyed the various musicianship, and each band member gets a bit of time to shine. What really made this song work for me is the various tempo changes that go throughout the song. And T-Bone, about 2 minutes in, we get what sounds like an organ that just added to it to be a nice little music highlight. Towards the end of the song, again, it switches tempos to maybe almost a near ballad. A 7-minute song is sometimes a risk, and I'm happy to say Blondie pulled this one off.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is the longest track on the album, about 7 minutes. You mentioned a ballad structure, and it does begin that way, but then midway in, it just changes to become a full-on rocker. I do like the line, if you want to change the world, then speak real clear and make sure someone's listening. And when that change in pace takes place, it's quite a change in style, but in a great way. The drums go into overdrive, but it's the piano work that's the most noticeable and notable. Very impressive.
Well, T-Bone, while I was doing my notes for this review, I found out that they actually released on the CD a hidden bonus track. So that spoke to the nostalgia in me. So, of course, I had to go out and seek out that song. The song is called Tonight, and it features Laurie Anderson.
It's like you're on fire tonight. You start to cry. It's in the eyes as your heart starts to burn. Tonight I see you fly. You're out of time. You gotta start moving slow.
I can appreciate a band having a hidden track on a CD, and it really took me back to when bands did that a lot. This one, I can also see why it was not released in the digital format. It does feature Laurie Anderson, as I said, on backing vocals, but if I didn't know that, I wouldn't have been able to tell. This track is maybe more for diehard fans, as I kind of found it to be a bit dull.
Well, so Steve, this is a relatively short album, and, for the most part, it's not going to compare to the band's earlier work. But even with that being the case, there are some real surprises on this album. I will go as far to say that the album just gets better and better with repeated listens. That not only counts for Debbie Harry's vocals, which I obviously liked a lot more than you did, but maybe more so for the amazing seasoned musicians. I had this album long before we started the podcast, and the few times I listened to it didn't leave a very strong impression. But in doing this review, that changed. There's a lot more here than you might expect. There's plenty here for fans of the band, and I have to think that even those youngsters that never knew how influential this band was will still find plenty to enjoy. And for that reason, I do recommend this album quite a bit.
As I said at the start of this review, the last two of Blondie albums really I didn't care for. This album starts out strong and ends strong. The middle tracks, at least to me, were ones I felt were kind of skippable. They weren't horrible. Yeah. Such as like Missing Persons. That's, I think, scarred me. But they weren't bad. They were just maybe not up to the level as the beginning and the end of the album. But I would definitely recommend this album. If you're a fan of Blondie or new wave music in general, the tracks at the beginning and the end of this album were made such a nice listen. You'll be glad you took the time to check out this release.
All right, Steve, we haven't had any music news for a while, so let's jump into that. First thing, we have new music from the Blow Monkeys. They dropped a new single, Stranger to Me Now.
Stranger to me now, I don't recognize the anger in your eyes. You're a stranger, stranger to me now, stranger to me now.
From the upcoming album Together Alone, which no doubt we'll be reviewing along with the others that we're going to talk about. And that one is set to be released in May of this year.
And The Call is going to be releasing a Lost album on April 19th of this year. They released the first single, Welcome to My World.
And another one that I'm excited about is Crowded House has a new album, Gravity Stairs. It's coming out on May 31st of this year, and they just released a first single for it called Oh Hi.
They can take it to the people with a microphone, scare the darkness with a light bulb. Oh hi, say right in your head. Oh hi, it's alright. I won't forget.
And the Pet Shop Boys have been busy. They just released a new song as well, Loneliness. It'll be from their upcoming album, Nonetheless, which comes out in April 26th.
And if that wasn't enough, we have The Church, who also dropped a new song, A Strange Past.
A strange past just pass me by, and the faster you laugh and the longer you cry, dark star heart of your black eye.
From their upcoming album, Eros Zeta and the Perfumed Guitars. And if that's not the most unusual name you've heard in a long time, I believe this is a follow-up to their last album, if I remember right. Yeah. So we'll see what that has. And that album is going to be released on March 29th.
And T-Bone, we also got several tours to talk about. The first one that we're really excited for is Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark have announced their U.S. tour dates. They're going to be kicking off their North America tour on September 11th in Vancouver, and we'll wrap up on October 20th in St. Petersburg, Florida. And if you're going to be going to the September 24th show in Salt Lake City, me and T-Bone will see you there.
Of course we will. And one that I'm really unhappy about, The Damned is going on tour for only 10 dates. And when I say The Damned, this is different here in the U.S. This is the original 4 members from the 80s, including Rat Scabies, who hasn't been with them for some time, and Captain Sensible, who has a real aversion to flying. They will be playing from May 27th in Toronto to June 15th in Portland, and I'm envious of my friend Brad in Denver because he'll have a chance to see them and not me.
And the last tour I want to talk about, T-Bone, is Front 242 is deciding to call it quits. They're going to be going out with a farewell tour. They're going to be playing select dates this fall in the U.S. It kicks off on September 6th in Tampa, Florida. And their tour concludes on November 16th in Chicago, Illinois.
All right, so that's going to lead us into our next album review. And Steve and I have had some differences and disagreements on this one. So this is going to be a long opening before we actually get to the review. The album is actually from Jihad Jerry and the Evildoers, but Jihad Jerry is Gerald Casale from Devo. Now, you'll remember Devo, of course, and Gerald's involvement on songs like Whip It.
When a problem comes along, you must whip it before the cream sets out too long. You must whip it when something's going wrong. You must whip it. Now whip it into shape. Shape it up. Get straight.
Uncontrollable Urge. And Through Being Cool.
We're through being cool. We're through being cool. Spank the paint who tried to drive you nuts. Time to clean some house.
Now, the original name of this album is Mine Is Not a Holy War. The original album was released in 2006. This was released between Devo's albums Smooth Noodle Maps in 1990 and Something for Everyone in 2010. Now, this is the part Steve and I will agree on. It is often considered the lost Devo album simply due to the fact that pretty much every Devo member worked on it. And we'll get to that here in just a moment. But if you get right down to it, it is actually a solo album from Gerald, Jihad Jerry being sort of an Arabian alter ego for himself. Gerald abandoned the character only a year after this album was made, stating that people kind of were freaked out by the Jihad Jerry stuff. I thought they'd all think it was really funny and get off on it, but people are really offended and scared.
Yeah, T-Bone, you're right. This one is considered to be the lost Devo album. And kind of here's maybe where we disagree. This was released in 2006, and that's what Devo collectors are calling the Holy Grail, as it was only, I believe, produced to 500 copies.
That's very possible.
And in 2021, Gerald V. Casale re-released this album as Devo's Gerald V. Casale's Jihad Jerry's and the Evildoers. And it was released as a deluxe version with an extra 5 bonus tracks and a new single that we'll get into.
Right. And I think the reason for that is obviously because Devo is far more recognizable than Jihad Jerry. But let's face it, it really was a solo album for him with the involvement of the other band members.
No, I totally agree with you on that. And I think where we're disagreeing is a little bit as you're thinking this is more of a 2006 release.
Yeah.
I'm considering more of a 2021 release that's when the album was fully available to everybody.
Right, sure. Okay, so this does have Gerald Casale on vocals, bass, and synths. Bob Casale, who is his brother who passed away some years ago, on guitar. Bob Mothersbaugh on guitar. Mark Mothersbaugh on synths. Josh Fries on synths and percussion. Josh Hager on guitar. And the one and only Oingo Boingo's Steve Bartek on guitar on one track.
All right, T-Bone. Well, I think enough discussing about the intro of this album. Let's actually jump into it.
Let's do.
It opens up with the track, The Time Is Now.
There was a time we must remember, a time and place before we lost our way. There was a world more glued together. Now is the time to get on your knees and pray. I don't know why. I don't know why. Is it because it's through the fiction then? Could be. Yeah, it could be.
How this song kicks off was nothing short of a pure new wave bliss. This is one of those tracks that's going to instantly remind you of how talented Devo was. Yes, this may be on Gerald's album, but as we've kind of said, this is definitely a Devo song and really a Devo album. From the great synth work to the various vocal delivery, this song to me is an instant album highlight.
Yeah, it's funny because we're probably going to see a lot of this as we go along, but my first notes is, no, this is really not a Devo album, but you wouldn't know it from this opening track. Musically, it has a little bit more guitar than late Devo songs, but the extensive use of synths makes it a very familiar song. Gerald did some of the singing with Devo, but most of it was Mark. Still, Gerald's voice is really in the vein of what we know as Devo. Unlike Devo, though, we get backing vocalists which fit in really well with this energetic song.
Let's move on to track number 2, Army Girls Gone Wild.
Colonel Coffee's getting hot. She gonna put you in position. What happens here at Abu Ghraib stays at Abu Ghraib. Yeah, right. Button bullets, run, run, run. No child. No child behind. Army girls gone wild.
I liked the bass line and the air raid sirens to open up this track. I did enjoy this one. Gerald's vocal delivery of the lyrics made for a very entertaining song. It's a short song and does not overstay its welcome.
Yeah, you mentioned the bass, and Gerald kicks off that track with that strong bass line. There's a bit of an odd 70s guitar funk mixed in with the regular well-played guitar work. Once again, for me, though, it's the female backing vocalists that add to this track and give it life. Next up is the third track, Danger.
She had a shrink, his name was Victor. He said she really did it all for me. It freaked her out, now she was angry. He tried to help us for a modest fee. Oh, what's a man supposed to do? What's a man supposed to do? When fantasies of sex come true. When fantasies come true. I left my heart in San Francisco.
The beat really picks up with this track. It's been strong with the previous songs, but it goes into a frenzy here. This also is a fairly short track, but the quick pace makes it seem even shorter. The lyrics, as with pretty much the rest of this album, are fairly goofy, but I'm sure that we wouldn't expect anything less.
T-Bone, I really liked the percussion and the bass line on this track. The backing vocals, I felt, added a very nice layer musically to this song. It's another shorter song on an album, but again, an enjoyable one. It's another one well worth checking out.
That'll take us to the fourth track, Beehive.
2 kids, black thighs, but I don't care. No, I don't care. Well, I don't care. No, I don't care. 'Cause you got Joe. You got Joe. You got Joe. I said you got Joe. Beehive. Yo, beehive. Yo, beehive. Yo, beehive.
Now, Steve, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but this is the first of a few songs that were written by Devo in the earliest incarnation back in 1974, but then the band basically discarded it.
Really?
Yeah, and what a surprise. Here we get a blues song, Devo style. The guitar is right up front with less use of synths than we've previously heard. It's a great change of style and one that's not only unexpected, but fascinating to listen to.
Boy, T-Bone, you're right. I really like the blues tempo on this track. The bass and the guitar lines were on point, as is Gerald's vocal delivery. And the slight harmonica that comes into the background was a very nice music layer. It's another track that I would say it's well worth the listen. Let's move on to track number 5, I've Been Refused.
Sitting after supper, watching CSI. Asked for a cigarette, I got no reply. Then you dropped your Nikes, revealing rubber underpants. Sweat was forming in my shoes when you ended our romance. I've been refused. I've been refused.
This one opens up with a synth line that sounds like it could have been straight out of an 80s video game. I like how Gerald's vocals were mixed on this one. It's another short song, and I feel works towards its advantage. The highlight for me, though, is how this one ended and jumped right into the next track without missing a beat.
Yeah. After a guitar-oriented track, synths make a strong return. That's not to say there's no guitar, as they are an integral part of the track also. As a matter of fact, the way the synths and guitar are combined make this track one of the most interesting to listen to. Gerald puts his heart into the vocals, really belting out the lyrics.
And let's move on to track number 6, The Owl.
Would you ride? And I will see you one time. Would you wrong? And I will see you twice. Let me ask, who will help me bake my bread? Who will help me eat it? And who will praise me when I'm dead? And who will keep my secret? Will it be you?
Picking right up from the tempo of the last track, this one took me just a second to get into. About a minute into this track, it really finds its footing. And when Gerald starts asking who, I really liked how that came across on the song. The various vocal changes helped the song, and that keyboard synth line that comes in was another musical highlight for me. I did like the lyrics, I'm the owl, I see everything.
Yeah, we're in the same boat on this one. I did found the most interesting part of this track was that unusual synth line that runs through it, like as you mentioned. The lyrics work pretty well, and the vocals, along with the backing vocalist, work great together. It's another fun song with a brisk pace. Next up is the 7th track, What's in a Name?
I'll name you Jihad, Jihad Jerry.
What's in a name?
A world of pain. Jihad, Jihad Jerry.
What's in a name?
A world of pain. Mine is not a holy war. Nothing holy but the world I see.
It's just futile, the war on drugs.
I'm a lightning rod for hostility.
Steve, this is probably my first of a couple favorite songs on this album. We have more funky guitars that start off the track, along with a little different vocal approach from Gerald, and Josh Free's drum work is exceptional. He produces an outstanding beat that is the highlight of the song. It clearly shows off his talent and why he's now the drummer for the Foo Fighters. But it's the chorus that really stands out. Jihad Jerry, what's in a name? A world of pain. Every time I hear that, I find it clever and catchy.
Boy, T-Bone, you're right. This is definitely not one of the album highlights. A driving bass line and harmonica kick off this track, or I could not help but think of the theme from Shaft, as the song really has that vibe.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
And I really like the lyrics, like you said. The ones that I really liked were, remember, you look through your glasses and the rest of the world looks at them. Gerald's vocal delivery was sounding great. The backing vocals do an outstanding job on this song. It's another song that I really liked. And after hearing this song, you're going to keep singing What's in the Name? A World of Pain.
Yes. Next up is the 8th track, If the Shoe Fits.
I said, hey, what's up, you little putz? Man, you really suck. I said, hey, what's up, you stupid schmuck? Your mind is in a rut. I said, hey, what's up? Well, I guess you wouldn't know with your foot stuck in the mud and your cowboy brain slammed shut. You playing master and commander.
This one starts with very silly lyrics. Very silly, but still sort of fun. It's one of the shortest songs on a very short songed album, and I think maybe that's for the best. It does have great instrumentation, but in many ways it feels like a bit of a filler track. A good filler track, though, unlike some of the filler that we find on other albums.
T-Bone, you're right. We get another short song, and to me, it was just like you said, it was an average or filler track. This one just didn't connect with me much. I'll admit that. The vocals were okay. The lyrics I felt were a little weak than what we've heard on the prior tracks. The musicianship, as we've heard on the album, though, is on point. Let's see how we feel about track number 9, All She Wrote.
She said,
I got what you want, and that's the problem. I'm tired of being slammed, and stuck here on the bottom, getting crushed while you humping, pumping hard, shooting syrup, making noise like thumper, rolling over, playing dead. And that's a bull message you're sending, getting off big time, leaving me with no happy ending. No.
that's all she wrote.
I enjoyed the intro to this song. Jerry Lynn takes over on vocals on this one. The guitar riff was a nice highlight as well. I also enjoyed how when Gerald was going to take over on vocal deliveries, he starts out by saying, "Let Jihad speak," and then proceeds to sing a few verses before the vocal duties shift back to Jerry. It made for a rather enjoyable listen.
Yeah, there's some more outstanding guitar work on this track, and the bass line underneath is equally good. There's also a bit of funk to this track, which I found quite appealing. And, you mentioned somebody else singing on this album. I noticed that too, but I couldn't figure out who it was. But it really works well when the vocalists go back and forth with Gerald in his part.
Right.
Next up is the 10th track, Find Out.
I seen them doing battle, I heard them talking war. Still I keep on going, though it's different than before. They've been riding high, up where the cold winds blow. Miles above that highway where the rest of us must go. To find out, you've got to. You better find out before you open your mouth. Find out, why don't you? You better find out before you fill in the blanks. Go find out.
Now, Steve, as with other songs on this album, this was originally written by Devo also and appeared on the single of Peekaboo from 1982.
Really?
And it sounds like it. It doesn't sound exactly like a Devo song, but you can certainly hear the similarities. What seems to be an organ solo in the middle of the song, as well as the synths mixed in, is a nice touch.
Yeah, I had no idea it was originally a Devo B-side. That's good to know. Yeah. Some grinding guitars mixed with the organ kick off this one. I really like the organ on this. Like most songs on the album, it's short and also sounds a bit different than the tracks that's preceded it. It's one that, due to the length of the song, it's an easy listen, but not maybe a memorable one. And that'll take us to track number 11, He's Always There.
You're fixed on my eyes like a laser beam. You've already got me, but something intervenes. Come a little closer, turn so he can't see this thing that's gotta happen between you and me. I'd like to get to know you, sure, and take it all just one step more, and find out just what it's all for. He's always there.
This one, I did like the bass line and those guitars that drive this song. The backing vocals, I felt, added a much needed layer for this song. And the harmonica solo was something I did not expect, but I rather enjoyed it. This is another one of those quick listen songs and one that was actually really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think we agree again for the most part. I really enjoyed the way this track opens with sort of a garage rock sound. The guitar is fairly basic, but helps to create that kind of sound. The chorus is particularly memorable here, but since the song is so short, the vast majority of the track is that chorus. Gerald, along with the backing vocalists, sound great, and the inclusion of that harmonica that you mentioned in the middle of the track is awesome, though short in its inclusion.
And that's going to take us to track number 12, I Need a Chick. T-Bone, what can I say about this song? To me, if you ever want to hear what a song would sound like if Devo was doing a Dead Milkman song, well, I Need a Chick is going to be what that song would sound like. Grinding guitars match the vocal delivery of Gerald. The lyrics are sophomoric and really can't be repeated on this podcast. If you have a sense of humor and you're not easily offended, this is one you may want to check out.
Steve, you're degrading the Dead Milkmen. This song is horrible. Now, the funny thing is, this is actually another song from those early Devo days. Well, the thing I did like about it was the harder guitars that you mentioned and that outstanding bass, as well as pounding drum beat. On the flip side, the lyrics sound like they were written by a 12-year-old. They are utterly juvenile.
What I kept thinking of who wrote the lyrics would be Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, and that may be even degrading Beavis and Butthead. Now, when Gerald released this album, he was 58, but this song was originally written in the mid-70s, so needless to say, he was much younger. But still, that's not much of an excuse for just how childish this song is. That'll take us to the first of the tracks that were added for this extended version. This is track number 13, a demo of Pieces of Joe.
Let the world go crazy. Let the beat lay low. Never too quick or jerky to let yourself go. Let the rap get hazy. Let the fire
Maybe it's the demo state of this track, but it has more of a rock sound than the majority of the other tracks on the album. It's very possible that it's simply due to it not being a finished work. That being said, though, for a demo, it's a pretty decent track with excellent guitar work in particular.
Yeah, T-Bone, I really like the bass line and the tempo of this song. That worked for me. I'm glad this was included in the reissue of the album, as it sounds different enough to hold your attention. It's a demo and maybe a bit unfinished, but still well worth checking out.
Next up is the 14th track, Hooboon Stomp, which was never been released before.
I'm a Hooboon, baby. I'm a cross between a human and an ape. I'm all gagged out and put a hoot and a root and a ray. People look at me and laugh and make fun of my face. I laugh right back. I don't want to be part of the human race. I did it to myself.
Now, Hooboon is a combination of human and baboon, very Devo. The opening laugh, which is repeated a couple of times during the song, really sets the tone for this goofy track. And for the first time, I think we have horns on a track, giving it a very 80s sound.
Yeah, T-Bone, I really like the horns that kick off and accompany this track. The lyrics I thought were humorous and made for a very entertaining song. And you're right, that laugh at the beginning of the song was really unexpected and a great way to kick off this song. And that's going to take us to track number 15, which is actually a new song that was written for this at release. I'm Gonna Pay You Back.
What you selling? I ain't buying. Your lips are moving. That means you're lying. You appropriated credit. You let them think you said it. I gotta give you credit. That hat trick is impressive. Take all the fame and glory. Deflect the blame. Rewrite the story. I'm gonna pay you back. I'm gonna pay you back. I'm gonna pay you back right now.
This one does feature Steve Bartek from Oingo Boingo on guitars, and you pretty much hear his signature sound throughout this song. I really enjoyed this one, and it's an album highlight buried deep into this album. Really enjoyed the part of the song when Gerald starts the 100, 200 countdown.
Mm-hmm.
Some great percussions mixed with Steve guitars, and the lyrics really reminded me of something you could hear maybe Oingo Boingo releasing in the early 80s.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. You know, of all the added songs to this edition, this is probably the one that impressed me the most. That guitar work by Bartek is really strong, with synths thrown in to match them nicely. But it's the drum beat that I found most interesting and enjoyable to listen to.
And that's going to take us to track number 16. I'm Going to Pay You Back, the instrumental version. Well, if you really wanted an instrumental version of I'm Gonna Pay You Back, this track is for you.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say here. But you know, Steve, it actually works really well considering that you can hear the great musicianship without those vocals added. Yep. I thought this was a great listen.
And again, T-Bone, I'm going to be biased. Steve Bartek's guitar work on it just made it a listen for me well worth it.
And I think that's why it works so well just as an instrumental, because you can hear all those different sounds that are part of this song without actually listening to the instruments.
And we're going to close out the album with another unreleased track, The Manifesto.
I, Jihad Jerry, declare that mine is not a holy war. Rather, it is a war on stupidity as thankless and futile as the war on drugs.
Here we get a spoken word track to close out the album. But I'm not sure who the lady is reading the manifesto. I like the lyrics or words that were delivered on this. I found them clever and humorous, such as, it's as evil as SUVs and the drivers who wear backwards baseball caps. That kind of just summed up this whole album. It doesn't take itself seriously. I liked kind of how they closed with this manifesto. It worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun little addition to close off the album. You know, it doesn't add a whole lot, but it does give a little bit of overall enjoyment to finish things. Now, Steve, let's face it, this really isn't much more than a novelty album from a very familiar artist and hero of the new wave music scene. That said, it's a fun novelty album and has some outstanding musicianship. It's goofy for sure, but hell, Devo was often goofy and we all loved them. The second half of the album, especially some of the additional material not on the original release, I don't think holds up all that well as the rest of the album, but it's still a fun overall album and the unusual songs and an interesting concept. So I do recommend this album, but really only to those Devo completists. I cannot imagine that non-fans would find this very interesting, but fans should find some interest in most of it.
Well, T-Bone, the word you used right there, fun, is kind of the key to this whole album. It is just a fun album. The album, most of the tracks are short, and if you're a diehard Devo fan or a big Devo fan, this is a must pick up for you, and you probably already have it in your collection. For the casual fan, if you enjoy new wave music, I would still say this is a must pick up, as the musicianship and the songs are short, fun, and appreciate some good new wave music that you don't hear that much these days. I'm glad we were able to review this one for the podcast, as I found myself to enjoy it to be mostly an enjoyable listen.
Well, I don't think most people are going to have this album. I think this review may be an initiation to an album that they're not familiar with because, like you mentioned, there was so little produced back in 2006. And I don't think there's been a huge amount of promotion for this album back in 2021 as more of a Devo album. So that might be the reason right there that people might want to purchase it.
If you pick it up and you listen to it, let me and T-Bone know what you think of the review. Shoot us an email at newwavemusicpodcast@yahoo.com.
And speaking of that email address, like Steve mentioned, newwavemusicpodcast@yahoo.com. If you know of any new wave oriented albums that, bands that came out with material in the 80s and late 90s and they have something new, shoot us an email for that too. We're always looking for new albums to review. And speaking of new albums, on our next podcast, we're going to have the latest from Modern English. Their album is called 1, 2, 3, 4. And the most recent from Animotion. That one's a little bit older. I think that one came out in 2017.
If this is your first time listening, we thank you and ask that you please subscribe. That's a great way to support us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for New Wave Music Podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.